Welcome and thanks for joining me. We're going to learn how to make needle felted funny faces today. My name is Petal, Felt Alive Wool Sculptures. I'm coming to you from Wasilla, Alaska. We are going to needle felt a head with a funny little expressive face on it. You're going to learn a lot of basic skills that you can take to make anything really that you can imagine. You'll learn just a really great basic set of skills. Let's see, to make a face about this size, a head about this size, we're going to need 1 ounce of wool. I like Norwegian C1 felting bats. It's kind of hard to come by. You'll find a link online. You won't find it in your local fiber shops. I found it to be the best wool for needle felting, for soft sculptural needle felting that I can get my hands on. So 1 ounce of Norwegian C1 wool batting, and then this is merino batting. I like it because it's so bright white. It's really great for teeth and eyes. It's hard to find natural colored wool that is white. I believe this has been bleached. I get this from the same source I get the Norwegian C1 from. A little goes a long way. This here is enough for many teeth and many eyes. So a little goes a very long way. I can't even tell you how much that you would need for this class. It's such a small amount. And same with merino roving. You can get roving, and roving comes in long ropes. I like merino because it comes in such a brilliant array of colors, very rich colors. I don't sculpt with it because it's very long. The fibers are long and fine, and you get a rather stripy effect when you felt. The fibers don't pull evenly, they pull in long straight stripes. So I tend not to use it for sculpting, but I do use it for shading, for highlights, for eyes. So merino has its place. Merino roving has its place. You could use Corriedale roving, any kind of roving for your colors. And here's some brown merino. I use brown a little more than I would say a color. This would be mainly used for eyes. Brown I use behind the mouth. You can see the darkness adds a lot of depth, and for the pupils. So it doesn't take a lot of wool. Really, this is a lot of wool. This is too much for this doll, but just giving you some ideas. So that's all it takes as far as wool goes. Well, aside from hair, you could leave your character bald. You can use merino roving for hair, or you can use yarn. These are Cotswold sheep's locks that, again, they're on my website. So where to get them. And they're real fun and easy to attach and easy to work with. And so that would be it as far as supplies. It's a very, very fun little project. Not many supplies needed, or materials here. As far as felting supplies, you're going to need a foam pad. This one I get online too. It's fairly dense. It's a great felting pad. It's my favorite. I've used the upholstery type pads like for chair pads before, and these are denser. They're better. They give you a firmer surface to work on, and I love them. And then felting needles. We'll talk a little bit about those as we proceed, but I have them in 3 sizes. I actually sell these. I dip them in rubber, special rubber coated needles. They are called my Felt Alive Super Duper Rubber Coated, Color Coated Felting Needle Set. I sell them in sets of 6 online, and they're really comfortable to hold on to. It's easy to identify what needle you're grabbing just at a glance. And if you drop one on the floor, they're easy to find. So they're great needles. I recommend them highly. I can't felt without them. So the other thing I use often is a sewing needle. I don't sew with it. I never put yarn or thread on that thing. I just use it for stretching out the wool to help manipulate features, to find expressions. It's to make indentations. Maybe I want to see what he'd look like with dimples. Where if I tried to poke and press at the wool with a felting needle like this, it would break. So it's not felting anything, but I just pull and find expressions, and then I can simply take my needle and then use it to put the wool in place where I want it. So that's a very handy tool that I use a lot. It changes the expression just slightly, but a little more work on another side, and we'd really change it a lot. So a sewing needle has its application in this style of needle felting, but not for what one would expect. Another tool is a lollipop stick. It's just a rolled paper lollipop stick that I get at my kitchen cooking supply store. They usually come in a couple different sizes and thicknesses. This is one of the thicker kind. I use the thinner ones a lot too for my felted people, my little felted Felt Alive dolls. But for this application, we need a pretty sturdy stick. You can go to your kitchen and look for a skewer, something else that might work. Would be, if you can't find anything, even a Q-tip, the stick from a Q-tip, it's a little thin for this application, but you could use it. The other thing is oh, and I'll get to what we use the popsicle stick for. It's for simple things like making lids and eyelids and wrinkles. It's a fun process. The other tool I like to have handy is a little sharp set of embroidery scissors. These are curved. It's really easy to get in. I never cut the wool. I wouldn't cut off wool to use. I would pull it apart instead. What I use this for is snipping and cleaning up little errant, wayward hairs, little fuzzes that I can't seem to needle in. I'd rather snip off some fuzz than overfelt and ruin a shape, ruin a lovely area that I've made. So this is just nice for cleaning up. And you'll see, I have to have these on my pad. So that's it. That's all it takes for needle felting. That's all I ever use for needle felting. Some wool, some needles, a couple little supplies, and a felting pad. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to make funny faces. So I've gone over all the supplies, everything we need. I'm going to clean up my work surface, move my little funny face head back. He'll watch the process from back there. He'll keep an eye on things. Keep me in line. Okay, I'm going to set the merino wools off to the side. Don't need those. And here I have approximately 1 ounce of Norwegian C1. Norwegian C1 felting bats is how you will find them for sale. It's much different than roving. It's flat. It seems to have a lot more air and loft to it, which I love for sculptural needle felting. I like to take advantage of the air in the wool to make things more lifelike and soft and like they can move, like they can blink almost. So the first part we're going to do is make a basic head shape. Looks like a ball, but really it's an egg shape. We start with an egg shape. Egg shapes are the basis of almost everything I needle felt. So we're going to make an egg, but we don't need the whole ounce. We need about 2/3 of it. So I wouldn't cut it with scissors. I'm just going to gently pull it apart at about 2/3 of it. It's not an exact science. I don't weigh wool when I use it. I don't measure pieces. You get a feel for it over time. So hopefully you'll be able to get a feel for what I'm doing by just watching. I'm just gently pulling this off, separating the bat. Sometimes it's a little more difficult than others, like now. Okay. Here's about 1/3 left for facial features. We're going to set those to the side. We won't need those for now. And let's see, I'm slipping around here, readjust. Here is what we're going to use for the basic egg shape. Now we won't use it all like this. We need to prepare it. We need to take some time to organize it, to make it neat so we can make a nice, even shaped, evenly dense egg. So we're going for about 3 to 4 inch square. Again, it's not an exact science. 3 to 4 inch square, maybe a 4x2 rectangle, something like that. Roughly the size of your hand. Even a little smaller. You don't want it too big. See how this will fit in my hand without a lot of hangover. It's roughly the size of my hand. So and so we've made a thin sheet. Now that's not going to do us very much good. If you pull off little snips, you can set them to the side, or you can even stretch them out over. The main thing is you don't want like a glob of wool stuffed in there somewhere. You want it all nicely flat. So we're going to need probably about 5 sheets, just like this one. We're going to stack them up into a nice lofty pile. So I'll pull off approximately what I need. It's got this tail. We don't want a tail on there. That will just get in our way. However, we can take that tail, stretch it out, fluff it up. And again, we're going to just kind of straighten this out, making sure we don't have any tangly pieces in there. Don't have to take a lot of time with that. So we got about 3 sheets now. I stuck that little bit of extra in there. Let's see, we'll pull off some more. Some come off the bat cleaner than others. We don't want tails hanging. And again, if there's extra, you can just sit it in the middle. Looks like we have about 4 good sheets there, maybe 5 or 6. You don't want to get it too out of hand. It gets too hard to handle, so you can add more easier than trying to work with too much wool. It's easier to add more. So it's kind of poofing out around the edges. I'm going to corral the edges in. Sorry if I get out of the camera lens every now and again. I am concentrating on what I'm doing. I'll try to keep a good eye on it though. Okay, so now we have our little mattress. The ends are neat-ish. You don't have to worry too much about little bits of tufts. You're going to have that, but it's a relatively nice, easy shape to work with. So what we're going to do is lay it in lay it in your hand. I usually always start in my left hand. The idea here is we're going to hold on to this wool. We're going to roll it up. Well, we're going to press the air out. The tighter you can roll your wool up, the less you have to needle it. But I'm going to hold it in my hand and do it because I don't want to get it so very, very tight that there's not much air left. I want some air in there. So we're going to, and I like the organic shape it gets from working it on in your hand rather than you could lay it on your felting pad and roll it up. But you're going to get a harder shape. You're going to get not as a nice, you're going to get more of a tube. It's going to be harder to get a nice organic egg shape. So lay it in your left hand and you're going to have to kind of work it. I usually wrap my thumb around it, try to grab it. My fingertips are behind it. My thumb's right here, right in the very middle of the top edge. Got some fluff showing. So the first thing is I want to fold it over. My thumb's still in there. You see it's right there. My thumb's still in there. So as I fold it over, I'm going to pull my thumb out of there and I've got a nice fold. It's just a nice folded edge. It's not dense or anything. It's just folded. I have some air pressed out. I'm holding on tight. So I folded it over once. I'm going to change hands here because I need this hand free to pull this fluffy, messy stuff over on this side. I need to just gently roll it over the tip of my thumb, tip of my left thumb. Now I'm pulling that left thumb out of there, changing my grip. I'm pressing between, oh, it slipped. I'm pressing between my hand and my thumb. So it almost slipped enough to where all the air would come out. If I let it go, let me show you what will happen. All the air fluffs back into it and you have a sheet again. I've stretched out a little bit. I pulled off that too long stuff on the end, and so it's real easy to start over if you get really clumsy like I just did, and don't get frustrated. The wool, this is the hardest part. You're kind of just wrangling it into shape. So hold on to it with my left hand. I'm going to pull over my thumb to make a nice long fold. I use the length of my thumbs so I get nice long folds. So I already changed hands, so I'm going to pull this side over, keeping it all tight, keeping the air pressed out. Here we're starting to get the start of an egg shape already. I'm going to gently use that other thumb there and pull over and push it and grab it with my thumb. I'm still holding on with the length of my fingers. So now we're going to roll this shape again over. It's getting a little harder. Thumb's still in the way. Pull it out as you go. Keeping the air pressed out. You'll feel the fibers stretching. That's good. That's a good thing. You want them to kind of stretch nicely. Again, from the left side, over. Get my thumb out of the way. I'm using this thumb to really make sure these fibers get pulled down. We're getting a really nice dense egg shape in here. So again, this side, the egg shape starts forming from the wool expanding into this part of your hand. And if you keep this end pinched, then this end gets naturally smaller. It can't expand as much as this. So you get an egg, which is what we're going for. So roll it down over one more time. I'm really grabbing onto everything. Now what I'm trying to do is force these fibers, see the loose fibers down here, right down here. I want to have them wind up in the middle. So as we're going to keep rolling. I'm going to turn it over so you can see I'm laying it down now on the felting pad, but I'm not letting go. I'm just rolling it now. So you're going to need your yellow needle, a 40 gauge triangle. I'm pressing into the pad. I haven't let go. You can see I'm holding on the whole length of the egg really, really well. I'm going to start needling here. My fingers aren't in the way here, so I have to begin to tangle these fibers so they can't spring out. It's going to keep this shape locked in. It doesn't take a lot of poking. You can poke for a long time till this wool is rock hard, but we won't do that for these lessons. So you see how I'm just poking this surface. I'm moving my hands out of the way. As I go over it with the needle, then I can safely let go of that area. However, this is an egg shape. There's fibers wrapped all around, so we're going to turn it and just make sure there's no loose fibers wanting to leap out anywhere on this end of the egg. So then be aware of where the tip of the needle is versus your fingers at all times. You don't have to poke in straight up and down. You're going to find yourself working the needle at different angles. Don't change angles when it's in or you'll snap that needle, but you can poke at the wool at any angle. I find that running it across, I use the shaft of the needle to sort of press some of the air out as I go. I don't press hard, but I find that's a really nice technique. I call it a surface felting stroke. And so I'm just rolling it around. There's some loose fibers here that want to still jump out. I haven't tacked down this small end of the egg yet. It's kind of looking like a tube. I've got some fibers starting to fight with me. They're sort of pulling out. So I'm just taking them and wrapping them, keeping in mind this egg shape. Still pulling them back to the middle. We're just taming these fibers down, putting them where we want them. See, now it's holding. I've got all the fibers somewhat tacked. We've got a couple little bulgy areas, and our egg is not quite big enough. We have a lot of that wool left from the 2/3 of an ounce, so I find bigger shapes are easier to learn with than smaller ones. So I'm gonna, usually the ends of the egg need a little bit of attention because they just seem looser. So you got to kind of work those ends a little bit. I'm gonna work on this end. That's bulging out here. We're gonna still wrap it some more so this shape will straighten out. See how it's kind of lopsided? I could fix that with needling, but because we're gonna wrap it with more wool, it'll fix itself. So we're gonna need more sheets of wool, the same exact size as you made before. I think I want to wrap it with that one's not quite a good sheet there. See, it's a little messy. We can probably use it somewhere, but I'm gonna wrap it with probably a stack of 2 more sheets like we made in the beginning. And there's one, and we get one more. Oh, there's some of our friendly neighborhood vegetable matter. That looks like I want it out of there. Okay, it's 2. It's nowhere near as thick as what we started with because we just don't need that. We're just adding to this. So lay it in your hand, just like you were starting the first shape. Lay the shape in. The thinner end should always go to your right. Just lay it right on the palm of your hand. And just like we started the egg shape in the beginning, use the long part of your thumb and fold that wool over. See how nice and smooth it already is? So we have not a lot of fluff to work with, but we can still pull it over. What little we have, pull it over. If you hold it tight, it's going to keep a nice smooth surface and a nice fine shape. So I'm just pushing it. I'm hanging on those fibers as I'm stretching and pulling them around here. It's hard to see what I'm doing. I'm sorry for that. I'm trying to show you the best, but if you can get this shape down, this shape is a vital shape to learn how to make. And if you can get it down, you'll be able to make anything. So again, we have these loose fibers that need to be tacked down. Just sliding my thumb along as I go. So I can let go as soon as I've given it a few pokes of the needle, it will stay. See? Now, you can see some of my little folds and stuff, but I'm just pulling some of those loose fibers over. All this is going to get covered with the facial layer anyway, so you don't have to worry that you have a beautiful surface. If it looks a little bumpy or pocky, it's okay. We're going to cover it up. The thing about Norwegian C1 is it lays out so nicely. It seems to practically felt itself. Not a lot of poking is necessary. So what I'm feeling for here is really any soft areas, places where I feel a lot of air under the wool layer. I'm feeling a little bit here, it's just not tacked down good enough. It was just wrapped, but I never tacked that area down apparently. So you just kind of need to go over the whole thing a little bit. Like I said, you could poke it for hours. You could poke this egg. I could sit here for 3-4 hours and poking this egg and it would shrink. It would shrink to be a tiny little rock hard egg. And you can make beads that way and stuff. I wouldn't start with this much wool, but there are applications for that. So, but this we need it soft. So here we have, whoa, bounced right out of the screen. I'm looking for some trouble. Okay, here we have just a really nicely felted egg shape. It's kind of long, that's okay. If yours is fatter than mine, that's okay too. If it's a little smaller, a little bigger, that's okay. The main thing is that you need to be able to feel a remarkable difference between just the wool from the bat to this. You need to feel that you've done something. I've had students where they poke it just a few times, let it go, and they're just trying to work with the big fluff. And you need to at least have some density to it. It's squishy. I'm trying to show you. I'm really squishing. It is squishy. See how much memory it has? It bounces right back. But it's not fluff anymore. So that's the consistency you want. So there you have a basic shape. So you can see we have an egg shape. Pretty good size egg shape. Yours should be relatively close to this size. When I teach, I don't like to talk about exact amounts or exact sizes. That's something that those differences really make unique differences in the characters. So I like you to learn how to play with amounts and sizes and all of that. So we don't really get into that at all. So I have fairly big hands, if that can give you any idea of how big this egg shape is. So the next thing we want to do is let our character look out into the world, which means I would say our character needs some eyes. Now, generally I go for 2 eyes. I've seen some really fun one-eyed funny face characters. You could have 3 eyes, you could have no eyes if you really want, but I think we all like to learn eyes. So I'm going to make just a nice fun pair of needle felted eyes. I always have a sewing needle on my felting table, so here I will use it. I'm not going to sew anything. I never thread anything through that eye hole again, but I'm going to determine where I want the eyes. I like to set the eyes generally pretty much in the middle of the head. So I'm just taking my needle and pressing in. If I did this with a felting needle, it would break. So really all I'm doing is just getting a visual on where I want the eyes. So the little line bounces right back, but I can still see it. So what I want to do is take my yellow needle, my 40 gauge triangle, and right across that depression I just made, try to keep it so my hands aren't in the way, I'm just going to just lightly make a line right across that depression. Now you should feel a pretty even surface under your line you just made. If your needle sinks way in somewhere, you might want to add a little more wool because you have an air pocket in there that's going to get in the way of the eyes. You're just going to add a little wool over. I had made my egg right in the first place, so I feel a really nice, evenly dense shape under my needle. So I went over that line a few times. There's where I'm going to set the eyes. But we're not there yet. The first thing we need to do, well, the eyes, let me step back a moment. The eyes, everything kind of comes to the center of the face. The nose attaches right in line with the eyes. The thinnest part of the nose, the bridge, is right between the eyes. So we're going to use this line as a guide for getting all the facial features lined up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a mouth shape. Now generally, a mouth is under the eyes and under the nose. So if the eyes are here, we're going to leave some leeway for a nose, and we're going to get the mouth right about down here. There'll be a chin underneath that, cheeks outside of that. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that when we get a mouth on, we have some sense of depth behind that mouth. We want, it really gives a lifelike spark to it by having that sense of depth. So the best way to achieve that sense of depth is to create a dark spot. A dark that if just in case your mouth is open slightly, you'll be able to see this darkness and this depth underneath, and it really adds some great detail. So what I have here is brown merino roving. Comes in long ropes. I don't sculpt out of it, but I do use it for features, for shading, highlights, eyes, mouth. I use it a lot. I just don't use a lot of it. Let me demonstrate. So here we go. What I need is just a nice area with a brown spot, and it's going to get covered, so it's not like you have to get careful perimeters or get an exact science of where your mouth is going to be. You just want to make sure that where it's going to be open, you're going to be able to see this brown. So anyways, let me just show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to prepare this roving. It's in really long strings. It's all been combed to run in one direction, and I don't need that. What I need is just a nice messy sheet. So I'm holding tight, and I can hear the fibers actually tearing because I don't want them as long as they come in the roving form. All the short fibers have been combed out of there, and it's just the long fibers. And they'll leave a stringy effect. They'll shrink all in one direction rather than from all directions. So if you can see, I've made a messy little tuft of wool. I'm just going to lay that on the face, and I'm going to take the yellow needle, just kind of spread it out so I don't have to force it to go where I want with the needle. It's going to be generally under the nose, above the chin area. So I'm just really lightly tacking it in. The main thing is you don't want, well, there's a couple of main things here to think about. You don't want to sink this into your egg. You don't need a depression there. You don't want a big raised bump either. You just want it nice and flat across the surface. And then the last thing you really need to consider is random fibers sticking out of the mouth. You really don't want brown fibers sticking out of the mouth. So once I get that laid on nice, I switch to the red needle, and this is the 38 star, and I go over it in sideways strokes. I'm holding the needle parallel to the surface. I'm actually pressing on the surface with the shaft of the needle, and starting with the needle pointing towards me, I just slide along, making really short, close jabs. Really not exerting any pressure. All this is doing is cleaning up the surface. It's making sure we don't have any loose fibers sticking up, sticking out of the mouth. So I went across all that direction. I'm going to turn. I'm going to do it in another direction. Just fairly orderly. I go into the sideways motion. It's not felting in. It's not changing the shape of the egg. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to go in one final direction. See, we have one loose fiber there. That's going to get all covered, but let me just get it dealt with. It wasn't one loose fiber. It was a loose tuft of fibers. So I'm just going to repeat this motion. This is called a finishing stroke. This is how you tame down fuzzies. There's more barbs on this needle and they're closer to the tip. That way you don't have to poke as far to get some felting action done. So there we have all the loose fibers contained, and now we're ready to proceed with the mouth. Most of the time when I teach, students naturally think of the mouth that they need a different color. They're thinking of the lips rather than the entire mouth shape. The mouth shape is the same color as your flesh. In this case, it's pink. So we can add lip color to that, or we can not. For these funny faces, they're generally simple, and you just don't need extra lip color, but I'll demonstrate how. So with the mouth, it's two separate shapes. We have the upper mouth and the lower mouth, and I always start out with the upper mouth. So here is my wool, my remaining wool for facial features. I have plenty. I'm going to have extra, maybe even enough for another character. So the idea for a mouth is I'm going to pull some of this off the batting. I want a nice, neat shape. Pick out any pesky vegetable matter, or VM, as felters like to call it, and spinners too. And you want to just make sure that it's nice and even. Draft it apart a little bit with your fingers without tearing it apart. Upper lips, if you feel your own is fairly thin, we don't have a lot of bulk there, but we need some density. So we have a fairly big head here, so we need a fairly wide mouth. The idea is, I'm going to move my red needle out of the way and grab my yellow needle. The idea here is just to make a nice clean edge. That will be the lip, and you want to leave one side fuzzy to attach it to the face. Actually, you want to leave three sides fuzzy, but let me demonstrate. So we could do this again with the needle, the sewing needle. I'll just show you just where I'm gonna work here. I've centered this right in the middle of my sheet. This is a 3-inch needle, if this gives you any size. Help with the size, it's a 3-inch dull needle. So I'm just laying it there. I'm gonna actually felt a line right where that needle is, but I want it out of my way. I can remember where that needle was. It started about right here, ended about right here. Right? I think we're right. So I'm actually poking the wool into the felting pad, and it's locking it in there, and I need it to lock in there. I don't need it to be locked in deep. If I started jabbing this needle in all the way to the end of the blade, we're going to force so many fibers down into that mat, it's going to be hard to get it up. You might damage your felting pad when you pull it up. You're likely going to bring little chunks of foam up with you. So I usually go about halfway down my blade, and I just go over this line 2-3 times. I want it in there. It's a straight line, relatively straight. It's hard to see here. Get it as straight as you can. So once you have a straight line, then you take the loose fibers from the upper side, really gently fold them over. I want you to feel right along here. You can feel your line. You can feel where it starts. You can feel where it stops. So without pulling tightly against that line, I want you to be able to feel it in there, but I don't want you to be tugging on these fibers. Right now the pad's acting as a tool to hold these fibers in place as you create a nice edge of a mouth. So about, let's see, 1/2 inch away from that fold, right along where you can feel where you started and stopped that line. Draw another line. And now we're going to take and we're going to fill that in. And this line you can sort of actually make it be a little more rounded. This one out here, maybe more of an arc to get a natural lip shape. This is the whole upper flap of your mouth. If you feel it's pretty much attached to your nose, over your gums, and over your teeth. This is the part we're making. We don't want to make it really broad, and we don't want it too squared. I made a little squared here on the end, and I want to round this out. So just rounding this out a little bit. And in this area here, let's see, round it back out to here. I need to get this area dense, all this area dense. You can see how it's sort of a smile shape there. So I'm going to keep felting on this till I don't see any big pockets of air. We really want to get all the air out of this shape to get a nice mouth. So it's still locked into the felting pad. I don't see any big pockets of air. You can see all the holes. Those will soften out. Those will relax. So it's all felted into the pad. So I like to be really careful with this step. I don't want to damage my pad and want to pull it out pretty evenly. It came right out. You can see where these fibers here were attached into the pad. So now we just need to get those. This is the back side of the mouth, so we're not going to be too worried about what it looks like, but I don't want these fibers here. You can barely see them. I want them tucked away nicely on the back side of that mouth shape. So and now I'm trying to, rather than forcing the needle down through into the pad again, which all that would do is force fibers to the nice clean felted side that I just did. So what I want to do is try to stab any of those loose fibers, here's that finishing stroke again, any of those loose fibers up into the fluffy part rather than all the way through the other side of the face. We don't need to do a lot of work here. Got a nice clean edge. Turn it over one more time. Any loose fuzzies, so you can see that right on the edge. I'm going to turn it back over. I just missed them the first time. And just kind of grab them and felt them in gently. It's just gentle. You don't have to get too carried away here. And this doesn't have to be as thick as a board or solid as a board or anything. You want flexibility, but you want it to be strongly felted. And so here we have the felted mouth shape, and we have fluff on the remaining three sides. We want to leave that like that. And excuse me, we're going to attach this to the face. So it's going to be under the eyes, under where the nose is going to be. The nose is going to actually sit on top of this. But what I want you to do is lay it across and then feel for that line. If you have to peek, that line can be hard to feel. So if you have to peek, fine. But what I want you to do is, you see how I have the mouth centered over that brown area? That's about where it's going to land. So now what I want you to do is feel for that line and just tack these fibers in along that line. Simple as that right now. That's all you do. Your mouth is centered. It doesn't even look like a mouth right now. Whoops, see, I messed up. I tacked it in way too high above the mouth. But look, messing up is an easy fix with needle felting. All I have to do is pull that out, get a better clue of where my line is. Let's get my mouth down just a little. Needle felting is very forgiving. Make sure, yep, there. I'm right in that line. So go ahead and tack that into the line. Needle felting is very forgiving up to a point. If I would have felted all these loose fibers in, I wouldn't have been able to move that piece, rip that out as easily. So there we have, you know what? I like to show you guys me messing up a little bit so that you're not frustrated. I don't have this on straight, so guess what? I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to find the center of my shape here, lay it across there, hold it tight, go back, find that line again. It's important to get everything laid out straight and square if you don't want to a really funny face with everything all lopsided. So there we go. It's in the line. I have more on this side, but I just have more fluff. Here's where the lips end. So we're pretty square. So I'm going to tear off a little of this extra fluff so you can see we're pretty square. We're pretty centered. I should say not square. Nothing is square in needle felting. It's hard to get a square. You can, but it's hard. So, okay, so now we're going to make another mouth shape the exact same way. I like to look for a nice clean area of wool to pull off a sheet. So we need a sheet just like the one you did the upper mouth shape with. And just, again, like I did before, make sure it's nice and flat and even and neat. And so lay that out on your pad. Vegetable matter, go away. Okay, now rather than drawing a straight line across the middle, I'm going to draw a slightly curved. I want this guy to have a little bit of a, it doesn't even necessarily make him smile, it just is going to give it a more lifelike quality to the lower part of the mouth. So I'm going to determine I'm going to start here and here. So what I'm going to do, my hand gets in the way. It's almost inevitable. So let's see, I'm going to draw a line in. I'm going to draw a smiley line in and to make those, meet those dots, those points that I started. You can see that, and I'm going to go across it a few times just like I did that straight line on the upper mouth. I really want to focus on getting those corners, those 2 points in there, because they're the ones that are going to want to pull out when I do this fold over move. So just like before, you fold the fibers down, feel for that line you just felt it up against. So I'm going to tack these fibers in just so I can get them all the way around. And again, I'm marking a line a little bit out from the fold. This just corrals all the fibers where I need them to be. I can feel that, the edge of where I stopped up there. So again, we need to fill in this area here from the edge out and make it dense. This is going to be the lower part of the mouth and form down over the chin. This fluff will form down over the chin. So again, just keep going over it until you don't see those little pockets of air. Just really need to sculpt that air out of there, poke it out of there. Okay. If I wasn't doing it on the camera, I might go over it a few more times just to make sure we have it nicely dense. But I speed things along a little bit here. So I carefully pulled it off. Again, I'm going to turn it over, do the same thing to get these loose fibers down. This one folded neatly. I don't really have a lot of loose fibers I'm looking at, which is fine. And I told you I would show you how to make lip color. Generally, you only need lip color on the lower lip. The upper lip, it just tends to look garish and unnatural, and I rarely, very rarely put any upper lip color. But since I happen to have some purple merino, and this is a funny face class, I picked the purple for the eye color, but there's enough for a dozen eyes here probably. So I'm going to make purple lips for this demonstration. So the merino is good in its state that it comes off the roving. I don't need to mess it up. I don't need to mess it up at all for lips. And depending if you want a really big fat lip or if you want just a little shade of color, it depends on how much wool you take. I can't be the judge of that for you, so you just can watch and see what I'm doing here. This amount of wool is going to make a fat lip. It's going to make a big puffy fat lip, but it will be easier for me to demonstrate. So all I do is take one end. One end's a little looser and fluffier than the other. I'm going to take the one end that's a little more tangly looking. So I'm just going to pull it down around my stick. I folded it over, laid the stick on top, folded it over. I'm going to give it some good tension, and I'm going to pinch. And once you get this first rolling motion started, it's easier. I'm pinching as I'm rolling. It's starting to roll. I want to keep tension. I want to pull pretty hard on this, on the roving part, and just roll it, keeping it tight. See how nice and tight that is? Keeping it tight. I don't want to make it really long. It's going to stretch, you will see. So now I'm feeding the fibers back towards the middle of this shape. I want it thickest in the middle. Okay, all the fibers are on. Now here's a trick. I use it all the time. It's great for wrinkles, fingers, lips. So now I just continue like I was rolling the fibers, but they're not rolling. I'm letting it slip between my fingers. And what's this doing is causing friction. And this friction is causing these fibers to felt together, which is what we want. I could sit here and do this for a long time and it would eventually make a solid, not solid, it's going to be hollow, but it would be very felted. But I don't want to do this for very long. I don't need it really well felted anyway, so spinning it a few times, I can feel it heating up under my fingers. So once I feel that those fibers, they're not popping off, everything looks good, I'm going to pull it off the stick. It's kind of tight, but it comes right off. So now we have this little hollow tube. And what I want to do is kind of look at the lower mouth. And lips are generally fuller right in the middle. So I'm going to just pull this apart until it's about the length that I want the lower lip to be. So then I'm going to turn this a little bit so I can see it better and perhaps you can see it better. What I want you to do is lay it on top of the lip, on top of the mouth shape. This is technical. This part you can skip. If you feel frustrated, your face will look funny and cute without this step. So this is a little more advanced, but not terribly. So starting on one side, I'm going along the bottom or the outside layer, outside edge of this lip, and I'm just taking a little bit of fibers and poking them right through. I'm not smashing it. We got a puffy air spot here that didn't felt well, but we can deal with that. See how that's puffing up right there? That didn't felt good. I could have gone a few more, another minute or two spinning that, and that wouldn't have happened. So I'm just tacking it down along the lower edge of the lip. Okay, it's tacked down. Now I'm going to pull that up and I'm going to turn it over. You can see the purple fibers have worked their way through the back. That's fine. They're not going to show. So we want to be careful that we don't run pink fibers or purple. We don't want to contaminate the front. So we need to be careful to force the fibers into the inside of the wool rather than to the outside. So for this one, I'm going to grab the red needle. It's going to grab these fibers a little bit better. So I'm pressing down. Here's this flappy lip shape. I'm grabbing that puffy part first. I want to make sure that gets all corralled down. And if you see, I'm just pulling it over the edge of the lip very lightly. And I'm going through to the center of this wool shape. And I can tell that I am going through to the other side, and it may be contaminating it a little bit. It can be unavoidable, especially if you have high contrast lip color like I have. This purple against the pink, it's gonna show, but we can cover it easy. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just taking it and tacking it in here. So we have the lip on. I see it's a little loose right here along this part, so I'm going to work that in a little better. Now's the time to do it, and I'm going to go all the way right up to the edge. Now's the time to get that worked on just how you need it. You can sculpt this shape a little bit when you get it on, and it's really neat how that works. So this is the back side. Here's the front side. We still have this unfelted loose stuff here, so all we have to do to remedy that is felt it with our needle, since it didn't felt with our hands, with our fingers. So bear with me as I do this. It's good for you to see me fixing little problems, because you're gonna have them as well. So all I'm doing is felting that with my needle. And the star needle works really great because I don't have to poke very deep. It's just grabbing those fibers and felting them. You know, turn over a couple times and make sure you've got it nice. And again, you can, once you get it on, you'll be able to play with it a little more. I see a little gap where I didn't get it attached good right there. It was probably pulled out when I was felting that shape. So nobody's perfect anyways. Our lips are never perfect. So there is going to be the lower lip. Isn't it funny? It's going to look like a Muppet or a clam at this point. But it's I see a little face already starting to come out. So we're going to get, I'll show you how to attach the lower lip, and we'll proceed with the nose. So we need to attach the lower lip, and if you have a really big wide lip, that's okay. And if you want it to stay really wide this way, you can. Otherwise, you can hide some of that underneath and only make a smaller mouth. So you kind of need to decide that right now. So I'm going to show you how to attach to make a big funny lip. So what you want to do is you want to go find that edge where you stopped on the upper lip, where you stopped felting, and you need to really carefully pull the fibers out. You'll feel where the edge stopped, and you won't even be able to pull those fibers out easy. So do that on both sides. This one has some really loose fibers I didn't need. They wanted to fall off anyway, so I'm just fluffing those over, fluffing them up. And again, take your lower mouth shape and do the same thing. I find it good to get a good grip on it, otherwise you tend up pulling wool from places you don't want to. So we have all that fluffed, we have all this fluffed. Generally, the lower lip goes under the upper lip shape. The upper lip shape tends to naturally overlap on all of our lips. So what I want you to do is just gently lay these down. Get your yellow needle or your 40 triangle, and I just want you to gently lay these fibers over and tack them down. And here too. Let's see, get these corners matched up. And we're just going to gently, I'm not even really attaching it so much into the head shape right here. I'm just attaching them together loosely. I don't want to hard felt it right now into the head. Just tacking it down and tacking those two shapes together. So here I am attaching these fibers into the back of the head. I need these tamed down. This is the best way to put them. So this is going to form a natural chin shape here. So here we go. We're just going to fluff these down, fluff them over. I like to use the palm of my hand to evenly pull fibers and get them where I want them. It just really makes them neat and easy to control. So I pull them down, keep them held down, and I'm tagging those loose fibers into the back of the head. Tagging the loose fibers in. Here we got some loose fibers sticking up from our connection here. We want those in. Let's switch to the red needle for this. I switch back and forth a lot. You guys need to learn to play with that as well. I switch back and forth a lot. And I think even humidity depends on what needle works best. Sometimes my yellow needle, although it's my favorite and I could probably do a whole doll with it, sometimes it just doesn't want to work with my old standard of wool. So something funny has happened here. This wool has somehow pulled funny. The line is still there. Let's get it back attached to our line. We got some little cheek shapes. We just need to be able to see our line. That's all we need to do. Everything's fairly loose. Loose, loose, loose. That's good. So now what we need, and don't worry about loose all around up here. This is all going to get dealt with. We're going to be able to get an expression in this mouth after a bit, but right now we're just going to finish constructing the basic part of the face. I like to consider building up a face as in a couple of phases. The first is making the basic shape, but then building up the basic features. And from there, once you have the basic features on, It's so fun to manipulate those features into a really fun character. So, like all the other shapes, we're going to go for the nose. We need a sheet of wool. I would say go for a sheet the same size that you use for both mouth shapes. It's a good place to start. So here you see I'm just going to pull off a sheet. It's fairly, there's a bit of wool there. I can't see my fingers through it in the middle. That's alright, I want a fairly big nose. If I wanted a really small nose, I'd probably rip off at least a third of this wool. But you want it wide. It's kind of hard to envision what you're going to do. You want it wide. You need a lot of extra fibers. So I like to look at it. One side should usually have looser fibers than the other. You see this has a little more abrupt edge. This has looser fibers. One end tends to be a little cleaner. One side can be cleaner than the others, have less little nubby nubs. These look fairly even. So what I'm going to do is determine my favorite side, which will be the outside of the nose. This side looks better to me than this. I see stringy nubs. They're okay if they're hidden inside the nose. So take the nice side and hold it down in my palm. And this is somewhat similar to when you made the basic head shape. You want to roll and fold, but not so much, and not make a, you'll see. Okay, sometimes it's just easier to do. So I'm just going to take and I'm going to fold this down. I'm holding it very similar like I held the first egg starting shape. I'm just going to fold this down right over my thumb. As I do that, I need to pull my thumb out of the way and come back up and grab it. There's one fold. This is going to form the tip of the nose, and that's usually fairly bulbous, got some density to it. So because of that, I want to fold it one more time over. See, now I can feel more density in there. And we're even going to get more at this point because we're going to very carefully roll one side over. I don't want a sharp fold or a curve there. I mean, I do want a curve. I don't want a sharp fold or an angle there. So I'm pressing against my thumb as I lift it up. And I'm coming back in and I'm pinching those fibers back together. So I'm going to switch hands. I'm just, like you had to switch hands for the basic egg shape, you have to do that here to keep the air out that you've just folded out. So again, on this side, I'm going to fold it over very gently and pinch it all. And now I can feel I have a nice little dense rounded shape. So at this point, really carefully lay it on the pad. Get your fingers together, working together there. I'm pinching this together. So here we have this folded up area. You can see it's already forming a nose shape. And so we're going to take the yellow needle and we're going to just felt just lightly. We're not going to be stabbing all the way through. If you stab all the way through, you're going to have a funny looking hairy nose, fibers sticking up. So all I'm doing, and you could even use the red needle. I'm going to switch to the red needle so it may work better. Yeah, because those barbs are closer to the surface. And today it just feels like it's tangling more fibers. So basically I want to close at that seam. See how I'm using that finishing stroke again? And so I will show you how cool this is. It all unfluffs because I didn't needle that, but I did needle this. I didn't needle it a lot, but it's enough to hold it together. So there's the tip of the nose. That's all the needling we have to do to the nose to prepare it, to get it on the face. So it makes it really easy. So like I mentioned about this line, the importance of it, this is also where the eyes are going to be, but also where the nose is going to be attached. And that is the thinnest part of the nose right at the bridge. So you want to determine how long you want your nose to be at this point. I could make it very short, a very short little stumpy thing right between the eyes. I would prefer to give it a little bit of a bridge, a little bit of a, I guess that whole part is the bridge. I'm not an anatomy expert. I just love to felt. So what the idea is here, and it's kind of tricky, and you have to be careful, especially careful not to poke yourself. And a couple things to remember, as you attach this wool, the nose shape's going to shrink, and it tends to shrink up. So I like to leave plenty of length down over the mouth area. And then I'm going to pinch in where I want that bridge to be, and I'm going to look down here for the line. I want right in the middle of the line, so I pinch in, I'm going to press, I'm really pressing, and you can see how that's going to form that nice bridge of the nose. So with the yellow needle, you have to be very careful. I'm pinching all those loose fibers down in, kind of under. So I'm going to get my fingers out of the way. I've pinched them in, and they're popping right back out. So just going to slide my thumb out of the way. And all you want to do is attach just a few pokes right into that line. Now back to the other side. So that one's going to hold in. It's holding in right in the line, right where I want it, barely. Those few pokes don't do a lot to hold it for the long haul, but I can feel that line in there. We got a lot of wool we're fighting with here, so don't get frustrated. You can see how really easy that was. The hardest part is to keep your thumbs out of the way as you attach. But with a few good pokes, that nose is on there. So now we have all this funny fluff on top. Well, that funny fluff is just what we need, just exactly what we need to hold the nose with one thumb. You can even stick a felting needle in there somewhere to hold it in place while you clean up these fibers a little bit. I'm just drafting them apart. They tend to get a little bit chunky pulling when we're making that nose shape, and then there was a fold. So this is going to form like the brow bone and the forehead, this part of it. So and even into the eye sockets. So we're just, again, this needle's in my way. I just needed it out of the way. I mean, I needed it there to hold the nose into shape. So keeping a hand on the nose, using that palm technique right over. And now these loose fibers need to get just tacked down to the head, just like we tacked those side fibers. Now I'll smooth those over, get any junk out of my wool. I know many of you have dogs. I have 3. There's something about the dog hair when it gets stuck on wool. Oh, it's impossible. I'm always picking dog hair off the wool. And I felt in a lot of dog hair as well. It doesn't hurt a thing. So here we have a funny little start of a face. So let's start playing with this. You can sort of see that if you can play with the mouth, you can get a grumpy feature, you can get more of a happy thing. And I want to keep in mind that the brown under there. See, I can make it really wide, but we're going to the bottom of the egg here. So I want to corral this in. So let's start around this lower lip. This is the sculpting part. This is the part I think is so much fun. And once we get all the features sculpted and we like how we like, then that's when we'll build teeth, eyes, ears. But for now, those would only get damaged in this process. So we need to take all these rough, loose features and create an expressive face. So the yellow needle is what I use. So let's see, I want to start by working my way down, making sure these two lip shapes are attached good together, the mouth shapes. So I want to pull this mouth up over the brown spot, and I just want to start sculpting down around and kind of forming a chin shape in. I am pushing fibers into the egg shape at this point. You see how I use my needle? Sometimes I go in straight. Sometimes I go across like this. If I have a large area that seems to have a lot of air in it, it really corrals that air down easy because the shaft of the needle presses the air out before the barbs have to do any work. But if I have a really stubborn area of a lot of loose fibers all standing up, it's just sometimes easier to go at it like this. This tends to leave more holes. It tends to, you can easily sink in to your shape. So I'm very careful with that step. I just like it to really control the fibers. So we're going to move, we've got this side down. The fibers aren't all loose and fluffy anymore. So there was a spot I wanted to attack with that basic felting stroke. And then I like just to call this a deep surface felting stroke. So I'm working my way back around to the back of the head. Got a lot of loose fibers here. I'm just going to stab those in. Stab those in. What a funny messed up face. So we've got the chin area tacked down. I'm going to give it a little tug with that mouth. I want to get a little more length to this whole cheek and upper mouth here. So I'm pulling that out. Now I'm going to go around the nose. I'm going to get it lined up, centered where I want it. It's probably pulled out of center. See, this one really wants to go that way. That's okay, because right now you're going to tell it where to go. Oh dear, that sounded bad. Sorry. So I'm just going to hold it down, get my fingers out of the way, and start right up at the bridge. I don't want to pinch that again. Right up at the bridge, and just sculpt my way down and around. You can attach it right underneath. See, I even have it, I have that folded right up. I don't want to attach it. I like to fold it up so I can attach it under the tip. And I'm just barely, really not, I'm grabbing just a few fibers out of that tip and push them into the head shape. So here we go. I'm going to go working my way around back to this. I started on this side up at the bridge. Let's start on this other side up at the bridge. I got it pinched in, and before it pops out, I'll just go ahead and tack that in. Now all the way down around here. This is just tacking the nose on. So this part here is fun. You see this big bulge? I'm going to go back to the fun part, but I need to get this big bulge dealt with because it's bugging me. So press that nose back in. It's just really a big bulge. So get the air out of it, stab it down. Now, you could keep poking and poking and poking for hours, and this shape would reduce into a really tiny, hard mass. If every time you poke, you're forcing some of the air out as you tangle the fibers, and you could just keep doing that literally for days, I think. And you would still come up with a wonderful piece of art, but it would be very dense. We're going for softness. We're going, I think, lifelike. I think you have to keep the wool soft to keep it all lifelike, and you'll see it. You'll see the reasons why as we come along. So we don't want to felt till this stuff is hard. We just want it attached. Okay, so now we have the nose attached. I want a little smaller, thinner bridge, so I'm going to pinch again. I'm going to show you some tricks that I use at times to keep my fingers safe. So I got that pinched. You can see what I'm doing, and I'm just going to avoiding poking into the stick. So what I do on one side, I have to do on the other, or we have a lopsided nose. So get that all aligned and poke with that stick, and just go right down along it, not poking it. And I'm just making sure that's attached well without beating it all up. See, that's already a cuter little nose. So now just we're going to sculpt out the bridge and the forehead. Here's where the eyes are going to go. You can already see that. You just want to make sure they're fairly evenly spaced, and they're there's a evenly, hard to say, let's see, they're evenly deep. The depth is the same, and there's an even density underneath them. If you have your egg is really soft under one side, it's gonna one eye is gonna want to disappear and sink away, and we don't want that. So if one side feels really soft or way deeper than the other one, all you have to do is just pull some little bits of wool, break them apart, stack them on a little mattress, put them in there. Start with the deepest point first, and just work your way up. Because my eyes were evenly dense, to start with, I'm gonna have to fill in now that other side too. They were a little deep, so that doesn't hurt. Deep is fun. Bulging out is cute too. It's all going to depend on the look you like and how comfortable you are. So we have the basics on. We don't have any ears yet. We don't have any eyes yet, but we're getting there. So we haven't really sculpted too much around the mouth, just the lower mouth. So, and I told you that you'd be able to sculpt that lip a little bit better as you went along. And so lips are generally right under the mouth, right under the lip. There's usually a pretty good indent under for the chin. So I'm just going to sculpt this in. And now the upper lip looks really funny. It looks almost like a beak. We don't want that. So you can take and play with the expression with your popsicle stick or with your sewing needle. The sewing needle works better, I think. So you can play with this expression. I want to get a smile. I want to get a big smile. So you can sort of see. A lot of times I work upside down. I can just see better upside down. So I'm going to take that pin and just stick it in there. See, we got a cute little grin, and it's going to even form cheek shapes, you'll see. So I'm going to start here at the lower lip, and I want to get this corner tacked in, needled in pretty deeply. And just start working around that needle. You don't need to poke deeply, except for just in a few points. And all the rest you're just sort of going to sculpt around there. So I'm going to get that out of the way. See, it did its job. It held its shape in there. And I've got a cute little dimple working there. So again, I mean, you could make a crooked smile. You could make him sneering, his mouth going up, smiling one side, frowning on the other. For this demonstration, I want him smiling evenly, fairly evenly. I don't want him perfect. Perfect isn't fun. So again, I have that tacked up, but you can see he's going to be having a cute little smile. So again, start with the lower lip, get that tacked well down underneath. I'm sort of still sculpting around there. Find those. I'm just going deep into those points, and that should have been plenty to hold that together. See? I love that. I think it's so cute. So I want to continue sculpting just a bit. I'm really liking how the cheeks are going. It's fairly soft. Soft is okay. I want to sculpt in more of a chin. So when you're sculpting, you can really squish. You can really manipulate that soft egg underneath there to help get a face that you love. We go along this upper lip. So now, I'm really liking what I'm seeing. I think it's just cute as can be. This stage is just fun. To me, it's just sculpting in a pleasant shape that I like. The back of the head's kind of misshapen. So I want to fix that. Because you have a lot of softness and air, it's really easy to force the wool to do what you want. I'm forcing these fibers from this hard top of the egg. I want them to go down and fill in this a little bit more. But if there's one spot that's hard, it's the top of the egg, right? Top of my egg's hard. Okay, so the more you sculpt, the more you'll be able to hide seams. Hiding seams is easy. I don't see any. There are some around the eyes. We're going to work on those eyes. So all this, the messy stuff that you added in will, if you added any in, will clean up. So right now, I still want a little bit of thinner of a bridge. I'm going to sculpt some nostrils in. You can do this, or you can leave your nose just like this, depending on how overwhelmed you're feeling at this point. I tend to like to have my noses have a little realism to them, so so it's a good thing to for me to sculpt nostrils in. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So I like to work this from the bottom, from the forehead, looking down the nose. It just seems to make really nice nostril flares. And all I'm doing is forcing these fibers deep into the head. And you can see the fibers are pulling to make a thinner bridge and it's making a natural nostril flare. Poke those down. I'm not attacking the surface to make a hard felted surface. I'm really just forcing those fibers, like I said, into the head. And look at how it makes a really neat nose line. And then I can turn it over and look and see what I've done. If I want to try to sculpt some better nostril flares in, I can do it from this way as well. Important thing to remember about a nose is whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. Otherwise it's going to pull unevenly. So look at how that little face is coming along now. So our next stage is eyes. And so for that we're going to need our white merino, and I'm going to go gather my supplies, and I will be back in one moment. So I've gathered my supplies for the eyes. What I have is short fibered white merino batting. I love merino. I love to use the white is the best white I can find in wool. There's a lot of natural colored wool, but it just doesn't have the same bright white that this great white merino has for eyes and for teeth. I just think it gives a great look. So again, links for this is for my supplies are on my website. So I need white merino, and then I need some colors of merino. I need brown. Brown would be for the pupil. Using black makes any character look harsh. I never use black in my faces. It's a very rare instance that I use black for anything but clothing. So dark brown's a great kind of wool to have around if you're planning to do a lot of faces. Again, you used it for underneath the mouth, and see how it did add depth and definition back there. And even when you add teeth to that, you'll still see the benefits of the brown. So so we're only going to use this brown for the whites, for the pupils, I mean. And then I have this nice purple color that I want for the iris. So let's start with the whites. You think possibly, most people do, that you need to make an eyeball. Well, you don't need a ball. A ball would always look bulbous and rounded out. You just need if you look at your own eyes in the mirror, you see it's a fairly flat, slightly rounded surface. The ball part's buried. So we don't need to make the ball part. We just need to make the flat surface that you can see. So again, we're going to pick out any vegetable matter, especially important in eyes. We want them very clear. So what we need, this is enough for both eyes right here. It really doesn't take a lot of wool for the eyes. So I'm going to pull those apart. Kind of clean up the edges a little bit, make it nice. So I kind of want to look at this area. And it's really nice just to even needle in the exact shape you want your eyes. I could make them as big to fill in these whole deep areas, or I could make them smaller. I'm going to make them a little smaller. I don't want them to go from the bridge of the nose all the way out to the side of the head. I want them a little smaller than that. So keeping that size in mind, I don't want to just needle that in, but I do, and I need to get these loose fibers dealt with. So all we're going to do is go around the whole perimeter, folding those edges over, keeping them pinched. Once you have them over, keeping them held down with pinching of your thumb. You just sort of keep turning it, turning it, turning it. And pretty soon, you're going to have all those fibers over, and it's going to be in rather of an eye shape. So just lay that in. Keep a hold on it. Don't let it go. Some of those fibers are going to want to pop out. That's okay. So now all you need to do is real simple, is go along that perimeter with your yellow needle. And you just want to pull the very edge fibers down into the eye socket that you made. See, it didn't take me much poking at all, and that is attached. Now see how it looks like an eyeball? It's got a nice rounded surface, and that's what we want. You don't have to do any needling on the top. See how easy that was? So now the trick is you need another one, just like the other one. So I need to clean this up a little bit, and see this wool here, there's a lot of little nebs in that. It's probably hard to see in the light, but that just doesn't, it's not going to work good for me for the eye. So I'm going to try to find a little cleaner spot. There can be a lot of nebs in this short fibered merino, which it's easy to work around because I only need it in small bits. So trying to remember about the amount of wool I used there. If I use it a lot more, a lot less, it will be noticeable. So it's just not exact, but as exact as you can get it without being crazy about it. So I'm folding it over. Sorry, I get out of the camera lens. I don't mean to. Folding it over, folding it over. Okay, I got all those folded over. Gonna lay it in, even with the other eye. Hold it down, yellow needle, and just take those fibers from the very side of that white shape. See how some have popped out a little bit, those loose fibers? See how easy they go back together too? Eyes are so easy. I think eyes are such a crucial part of the face, and I can never wait to get to the eyes because I love them, and I love that it's a surprise. You're not sure what the expression is going to be when you start the eyes. Right now there really isn't any. He's kind of blind, poor guy or creature. So let's get some expression in there. So here's where we need some brown merino. We're going to start building this eye up with the pupils. We have wisps. We literally have wisps. So I'm going to take these wisps and I'm going to break them apart. If you happen to have brown Norwegian C1, it's really easy to use for this step. You can use it the same way, except for you don't have to break it up like this. You just have to pull a little bit off the batting. Brown C1 works fine. But so does merino. So, see, I have this nice little messed up pile of wool. So I need 2 pupils. So that's enough for 2. So I'm going to pull this apart. Set one right there so I don't lose it. So I'm not rolling this like into a ball, but I'm rather rubbing it, creating friction to concentrate this color. You see how it's working? I'm not making a ball, and I'm not worrying that I get all these loose fibers in there. I'm just concentrating it. You're going to be able to needle those fibers down, but see how it's making a nice concentrated shape? Just keep rubbing them just a little bit. So, pupil placement. Let me get the other one made so I can show you about pupil placement before we actually attach them. So again, I'm just rubbing, not rolling, but rubbing. Just concentrating that brown color. We want it nice and deep and rich. So there we go. You can make your characters looking straight ahead. I kind of think it takes away from some of the character you could possibly have. If you make them looking down, generally any of us looking down, all you can see are our eyelids. So if you want it looking down, it's going to look unnatural without having heavy eyelids covering the eye. So it's something you can do, but for this lesson, I think it's best to teach you the fun of making the eyes. I love to make them looking slightly up and slightly over. I think it's as you pose the doll, the expressions change, or the head, I should say. We're not making a whole doll here. So you can see I'm tacking that brown in. It's starting to to affect the shape of the whites. So I don't want to beat this up. I just want to attach it in. And I don't want to sink it in too far. So this is something you can use your red needle for as well. If you start to feel that it's sinking in too far, just back off with that yellow needle and get in with the red. The yellow needle, I think, starts it better. So if this one is looking kind of up to my right, so I'm going to make this one, this pupil, looking up to my right as well. If I made it looking up opposite, we'd have googly eyes. Or I could make them cross-eyed. It's whatever you want at this point, but I'm showing you my techniques for how to get these faces to be fairly lifelike and full of character. So, and go back with the red needle, and just without sinking it in too deep, just make sure we don't have a lot of loose fuzz. So, I like to get under this too a little bit and adjust the shape. If I've sunk it in too far, I get in there with my sewing needle, not a felting needle, but the sewing needle, and sort of, if the eyes are not going the way I want them, I make them go the way I want them. Pulling it, and then I can tack it back down the way I want. Just takes a couple pokes to get it a little more lined up. So now I want iris. I'm going to have, the iris is going to match the lips. Now that will be silly, but that's okay. So we don't need a lot of wool. We want a good dense color though. So like I showed you, the rubbing to concentrate the color, I'm going to break this up yet because it's harder to work with in a long strip like that. So we have, just to put it in my hand to show you how long it is. So rather than, I don't want to roll it into like a yarn or string, but I want to rub, I want to concentrate these colors just slightly. We don't need to work really hard, but we just want, it wants to roll into a yarn, but we don't, try not to let it do that. And I'm not rubbing hard, I'm just causing a little bit of friction in there. So that's a pretty long piece still, and we're going to need them both, but we're going to need it. But right now, just grab a hold tight and pull them apart. Okay, there's a good place to save that piece. Little pieces that you're working with get lost easy. I feel like when I just put them right where I'm working, right on the face, they don't get lost. So I'm just going to continue to rub that a little bit. See, did I get out of the camera angle? Just rub that a little bit. So now we need to attach it around the pupil. I like to start above the pupil, and it's really important to hang on tight to everything, because the needle wants to pull random fibers in like it'll grab one fiber or two or three, and you'll pull this whole shape, this whole string out of whack. So keep a good tight grip on the string. Keep enough slack so you can feed it around as you attach it. Go for your red needle if your yellow ones doesn't seem to be working now. See, my red one's not piercing. Right away I could tell it wasn't piercing through that nice merino. So just working my way around. Try not to go over the brown, but try not to leave any white showing either. See what I'm doing? It's a really careful and exact. Doesn't take a lot of poking, but I'm working my way around. If I laid it around like this and then started poking, it would shrink funny and start to cover the brown. So again, just keep holding on. Start working your way around. It's a good time to go slow. You want a nice eye. So working my way around. If you have excess, you can snip it with scissors. If you don't have a lot of excess, you can just keep going around and work it in. That's what I'm going to do. If I had a lot more than that, I would have snipped it with scissors. I wouldn't have tried to rip it. I usually rip the wool, but I wouldn't have tried that because it would have pulled all this out. So now that I have it in, I'm going to try to get it. Yeah, now the red needle's working a little bit better on that. So I'm just going in very shallow, maybe to the second set of barbs. You can see them gleaming if you look at your own needles, but I'm just going in really shallow to make a really nice flat surface that follows the curve of that eye. So look at this piece still stuck there. How handy is that? So switch back to the yellow. Gonna repeat just what I did. Start feeding it around, leaving some slack while keeping a hold. It's good to move your head around on your felted head, I should say. Trying to keep a hold of that. It's wanting to hide from me. Once you get it about halfway around, it's not as crucial to hold on to it. But you still need to grab hold to feed it right where you want it to go. So move the head around. I'm going to work it right around up here and complete that circle. So now let me get here. So the one thing this eye is missing is this glimmer of life, the sparkle, the glint, the gleam. Such a fun thing to add, and this is pulled up a little bit over here more than I want. I'm just going to tack it in. So we want the sparkle of life, and let me show you how easy that is. Tiny bits of merino, preferably with no straw, hay, random field material. So this is even too much. So I'm going to pull this apart. We need 2 glimmers. You can see what I have there? Just a very little bit. And rather than concentrating like before, I'm actually going to roll this up into a little ball. Just into a little ball. So, oh, these little balls get away from you easy too. So I'm going to get the other one made. About how much wool I had. Get the other one made. Put it on the other eye. So the glimmer is really important to get even. If I it's you place it like you did the pupil. If it's looking off to the left on one side, it has to be looking off to the left on the other. You don't want them googly. See how I picked that up with my needle? So I want this looking off to my right side. Well, let's see. Let's make it look like the light is hitting right, is reflecting right here. So I'm just taking my yellow needle and stabbing right through that shape to tack it in. And then it really tacks in quickly. It really does. So now if I put, you see how it's to the left side of the eye? So I don't want to put it on the right side over here. That would look funny. So again, I just want to place it relatively equal to where I put the other one, right on the left side of the eyeball. And leave a little of the iris showing on the outside. This one's a little denser, fighting with me a little bit. That's okay. So now, see, it really added some sparkle and shine. And if they seem too big, then you can just felt them down a little bit. But be careful because you don't want to sink that in. So now go around your eyes again, around the perimeter, and it'll pull any of that puffiness out. So, how cute is that? Sparkly little eyes. Perhaps we need a little bit of eyelids because I think that looks funny. Eyelids are really easy. Basically, for this, there's several ways to do it, but I like to make lips. I like to make lips for eyelids. So the eyelids are generally the same color as the head because you're gonna have fluffy fibers to attach to. So you don't want like a bright orange or a bright blue like for eyeshadow lid. You can add that later. So if you see what I'm saying. So I'm going to pull this apart, and just like I did for the lip, fold it over, pull those fibers taut, and as you start to try to spin, keep a hold on it and let it spin, let it grab. Oh, I'm out of the camera. I'm trying to see what I'm doing. Okay, so remember how that part of the lip fluffed back out? That was just because I didn't felt it enough. So, this is actually felting it. Only going in one direction. If I switch directions opposite of how I wound it, it would untangle it all. So only go in the one direction that you wound. So I think we got enough there. I'm going to pull it off. Gently tug it back in the camera angle. I'm going to gently tug it apart. So this adds a lot of character. You can make it look mean. You can make it look surprised. You can make it see how that would look mean. Surprised would be more up like that. You can make it look sleepy by covering a lot of it. Generally, you don't see your whole iris. You don't see whites above human irises unless there's an extreme surprised expression. So it's good to cover part of that eye. So this is just going to be the upper eyelid. So I'm just going to tack it into the corner here. And just like you did the lip, attach one edge first, partially covering the iris. And I'm going right down here. Now we can play with this a little bit. This can be eyelash-y looking things, or it can turn into just a little bit of a wrinkle or crease. So generally that little bit just felts away though. So then you want to go along this, make sure it's attached. Just go along the other edge slightly. You got a little bit of a lid, and we'll be able to play with that expression. Let's make the other, I'll try to keep this one better in the camera lens, the other eyelid. So, I'm trying to remember how much wool I used. And I think that's a little even more than what I had before. So tear a little bit off, so fold it over. Start rolling it. It's easiest for me to roll towards me. And I think that's a little more wool yet than what I had, so you can still tear some off at this point. We're winding back that way. I want a nice even shape. I can feel how thick the wool is. So, and then spin towards me, keeping the stick spinning towards me. You can feel it's thick right in the middle, so I really got to get that pulled and felted. Okay, I'm going to pull it off the stick. Pull it apart slightly like I did before. And go ahead and attach. Once I get these attached, I'm going to play with the expression a little bit more. Because the wool is so soft and flexible, and you saw how easy it was to set in the expression of the eyes. Well, it's just, of the mouth, it's easy to set the expression of the eyes as well. This piece is a little thicker. I had a feeling I had a little extra wool, but that's okay. It wasn't too much thicker. If you made one eyelid really thick and one really thin, it's best just discard one or the other. I could tear off either one of these really easily at this point. But for this, let's see, let's tack that in like we did the other. So you could go ahead and make lower eyelids just the same if you want. I think I'm going to opt not to on this one. And let's see how we can play with this expression a little more. I want the eyes to be a little closer set and deeper towards the bridge. So I'm going to pinch this in. It turned into a funny expression. And I'm going to just give it on those corners that I worked at. I'm not doing anything to the eyes at this point, but it's going to affect them. Just making this bridge a little bit narrower so the eyes are a little closer. Pull the eyes a little closer together. I think it looks a little mean. What's making it look mean is this angle here, I believe. So take my sewing needle and just pull that where I like it. And you can either, I'm not even going to have to tack it into place. I can see it's making a brighter eye just by changing that line. A happier, nicer eye. And so I want to figure out how to do it on the other side. Again, it's this line here making it look a little mean. I want it to not look mean. You might want yours to look green, and that would be fine. So it's kind of extreme there. So just going to adjust that line so we don't have mean anymore, and we have more surprised. I want to pull this down a little bit more. I think it's looking a little bit fish-eyed, like the eyes are spreading to the side of the head here. So I'm going to pull. Always take your sewing needle at any time and pull any feature around. You see how though I pulled it out? You can see the eye under there. You'll have to adjust that. That's okay. That's easy to do. I'm just going to attach this right down and you won't be able to see that anymore. So, you have a fun little face. So, what would be left would be teeth, ears, and perhaps some hair. I'm going to take a little coffee break. I'm going to let you sculpt away. Get those eyes placed. Get everything. Remember to use that needle. You can see some tricks here. You can pull that nose longer if you like it longer. You can get it shaped more how you like it a lot with the felting needle. You can adjust this shape more. You can sculpt in, if you don't like the puffiness of the cheeks, you can sculpt them in. You can play with this. You can play with this area here. I'm going to play with it a little more before I leave you. I've had a hard time figuring out how to determine when a piece is done. I'm sure you'll find the same. So you could keep going for hours and hours and get it really, really detailed. But see how I left so many holes there by doing that? Switch to the red needle. We're just going to get those holes out. Even though they'll likely relax. Out. But so anyways, there you go. I'm going to take a coffee break and leave you to play for a little bit with your face, and I'll come back and show you teeth, ears, and hair. Okay, let's start this next segment by making some teeth. The teeth are made fairly similar to noses on a very small scale. Funny big teeth are fun and funny faces, but generally teeth aren't a huge prominent feature in most of our faces. Some of course have big wide bright smiles and some have smaller teeth. So anyways, what we're going to do is create some teeth. Generally it's easier to make bottom teeth and give the appearance that the top teeth are hidden. But you can add as many teeth in here as you want. I'm going to show you how to do 2 bottom teeth for a funny effect. So I pulled off some wool, and like I mentioned already, it's going to be rather a nose shape. So the idea is to get a nice felted edge and then some fluff to attach it to use to attach it to the head. So this is still a little bit too much wool. So one end's a little bit neater than the other, and the other end's fluffy. So we're going to start with this neat end. I'm just going to fold it over once, fold it over from one side, fold it over to the other, and then lay it down on the pad, keeping it held. Yellow needle. And the short fiber merino is tough. Even this yellow needle's it's a fine needle and it's having a hard time poking through those folds. But it will do it, and I am pushing some of the fibers through. I can hear it poking into the pad, as you should be able to hear it too. So I'm just very gently pulling any of those loose fibers over. Use my finger too to see how I'm folding it over. This will be the back side of the tooth. And you want to be careful that you have a fairly cleaned off spot of your felting pad. I'm notoriously messy on my felting pad. I have a lot of random colored fibers in there from other projects and from this project. So if you see a lot of contamination of other colors, just pull it out. I had just a little bit of blue in there, and really it probably wouldn't have even showed too much. So I'm going to felt this side down and then determine what side looks the cleanest and the neatest. I think this side will, because this side I've made the folds on. Well, either side, they look about even to me. So I have a lot of fluff on the end. I want to pull it off. I don't need much. I just need a little. So hang on tight to the shape you just felted and pull. Gotta have kind of strong fingertips for this. You can use scissors for any of these pulling off steps. Just try not to cut in a really straight snip. Kind of chop out a little bit. Really straight cut fibers are harder to felt in. They always want to poke back up. So this is going to be a big old bottom tooth. So I need to kind of pull this lip back out a little bit. You can use, to stuff this in, you can use your popsicle stick. Works pretty good. You can use the end of a needle. That rubber grips in there pretty good. Well, these are my super duper rubber dip needles, but a regular felting needle would work as well. So those fibers are in. It's a little tooth. And what I want to do is I don't want to really attack it too much here. Keep that lip, don't ruin the lip, just I'm tacking into those fibers that I just stuck in there. It's going to want to pull the tooth out at a funny angle, and we don't want that. So you can go right through there, right through the face. It's going right through that tooth. It's making a secure attachment. So right now I'm really tacking it in because I want to make another tooth. So I told you we'd make two. So here, let's see if I can find some nice fiber. Clean some up a little bit for another tooth. Always a little vegetable matter, it seems. So one side's usually fluffier than the other, but you get the idea. So I'm going to fold over once, fold over again, fold over again, lay it down, keep it folded. For some reason, those initial attacks into the folded wool, the merino batting, that needle really resists going in there. But once you get it started, then it felt fine. Wool is a very unusual medium. So we have a nice little tooth. Nice little tooth. Tame those fibers down. Determine what side you want the front to be. Well, that side has a little bit of junk in it. You can see the folds, so I'm going to go for this. It was actually the back side. So again, pull off this excess. Get in here. Pull that out a little bit. Find a spare tool laying around to force those loose fibers where you need them to be hidden. And start tacking it into place. If they want to overlap, you can make them overlapping or not. And here's another trick I use a lot. I'm going to pull this upper layer back up over a little bit to kind of hide a bunch of the tooth. I don't want a big amount of tooth showing on this character. And I'm going to have to re-sculpt this down a little bit. You may have messed up your lip shape a little bit. And by doing this, I'm securing those teeth to the head shape. And they look real because you haven't just like painted a white spot on. It's actually a 3D tooth, and now you can sort of make it conform to the natural shape of the egg, or the jaw in this case. And there you go. And the dark brown behind there, you see how it still adds some really great depth? And there you go. So we got the teeth in, now we need some ears. Ears, there's many ways to do ears. I'm going to show you a fast, easy method that I like to use. It's again rolling around the straw. The stick, I should say. Coffee stir straws work good for this too. Even though they're not perfectly round, they work good. So ears, this guy's going to have fairly big ears. So I need a bit of wool. I want this kind of thick. So here we go. I'm going to clean that up. I want it to manage it as I roll it down the stick. There's a little VM in there. I don't know if I want to take the time to pick that out or not. So again, I got fold it over, pulled taut, when you're working with thicker amounts of wool, it's a little trickier. It's more important to use like the length of your finger and thumb to keep that wool tight. See how it's pretty thick wad of wool around there. Keep it tight. I'm spinning it between the lengths of my fingers more so than just the fingertips like on the smaller shapes we made. Kind of makes your thumb tired, the spinning thumb. When you start feeling tired, just pull it off. So this is going to form the ear. Generally ears go about, probably about 2/3 of the way back around the head from the nose. They attach to the head right in line with the outer corner of the eye and right in line on the bottom with the outer corner of the mouth. So it's an easy guideline to use. So you can see there, I've got them lined up. Get your yellow needle and like a lip, start attaching it from one side. You can see I'm just pulling these fibers down from behind there. I don't want to attach it down flat. I want it to look like an ear. So just grabbing a little bit of fibers with that yellow needle, forcing them into the head shape, keeping in mind what an ear looks like. So I have these loose fibers. And I'm just going to let those blend into the face. And then I want to go in this inside edge to make sure we got a good attachment to the head. That ear isn't going to fall off anytime soon. It's well attached. And then you can take and sculpt as much ear shape as you want into that. If it seems a little too fat, go ahead and sculpt. You can give a little more natural shape by going through just parts of it. But see how easy that is? And it gives a cute little nose. Oh, that's not a nose. It gives a cute little ear. Simple, simple. So repeat it for the other side, and I'll show you some options for hair. So we have all our features on, everything is good. We have ears, we have fun expression. There are a few more things we can do. We're going to add some hair. There's a few more things we can do to finish this up a little better. It's really loose and fluffy. So like I had showed you, a good surface finishing stroke is probably in order. You want all these loose fibers tacked down. If you're planning on hair, you don't have to worry too much about under where the hair is going to be on the scalp, but you do want to get around the eyes. You want to just it doesn't look like I'm doing much here, but I can feel those fibers felting down. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it. What you do for this finishing stroke, it's good to go across it in many angles. It keeps the fibers locked down over the long term too. It permanently tangles them. C1 has a lot of, I've noticed that it does, a lot of loose fibers like to release. So it's really important, really important to try to get those fibers tamed and locked in there pretty good. If you don't, it's gonna fuzz up a little bit. I change angles sometimes if I want to be a little more forceful and make the wool behave. So if you see any areas with seams, it's a good time to work those in. A lot of times around the ears you're going to have seams, so go ahead and use that finishing stroke all along that area. You might want to form, even now, more of a jawline. I'm not going to get into making a body for this or even a neck. I do teach courses on how to make a full body doll, They're a lot more realistic, lifelike than this. This is just giving you some fun techniques to explore for making needle felted faces. Some things I do with mine is I'll put a long neck on them with just one hand on the end. They're really funny that way. Look at all the seams here. We don't want all that. So, and if you have a seam that's really, really bothering you and you don't want to look at it, it's very easy to cover a seam. So this is just a little, see this side's a little neater than this side. So I'm just going to cover that with a thin bit of wool. Just takes a thin bit. You can even, it's okay if you can see through the sheet you pulled off. Just try to evenly felt those across and you will cover up a great deal of messiness. Apologize if the lighting's changing in this shot. The sun is starting to stream into my little Felt Alive studio. And we're at the end of a long winter here in March, and in March in Alaska, and I'm not going to pull any curtains to shut that out. So enjoy the sunshine with me, please. So I'm going to continue, and as I'm finishing the surface, sculpt in anything that I like. Sometimes this area can be a little too puffy. I'm going to sculpt that down a little bit. This is a little uneven. I'm going to give him more of a jawline back here. I've seen people put just one big foot on the bottom of one of these guys. My nephew made a funny face and gave him a car for a body. He needle felted a little car. You can really get creative. So we have a nice, I would go and take more time, of course, finishing this, as much time as you feel necessary. You just don't want a bunch of loose, non-felted fibers hanging around. They'll eventually pull off and ruin your face, so you just want everything tacked down nicely. You can add a little more definition, I like to, in the nostrils, back to the brown merino. Remember how we pulled it apart for the pupils and concentrated it? So we need 2 tufts, one for each nostril, and go ahead and concentrate it. That's even a lot. Ooh, that sun's beaming in. I love it. I love the sun. So, concentrating it, I'm making a nostril shape, concentrating it. I'm not really making a nostril shape, I'm just making a dark shape. One's bigger than the other. I'm going to have to probably pull that one apart. So all I want to do, need my red needle, my yellow needle I mean for this, is sink that in. I actually need a little more. Let me go ahead and use the rest of this piece. That one sunk in more than I anticipated. Some of you might have a denser nose than I did. You want it to go from, you don't want it all the way out to the tip. Leave some of that tip, but you do want it to go all the way down to the lip shape. Okay, so now I need to mess up some more wool just really fast to get myself up to speed on the second nostril. I'm tearing and mixing at the same time. Concentrate down enough to match that other side. So you gotta kind of pull it back, watch where you're going, start it there by the near the tip and work your way down. You want these fairly even. And just add a little more definition there. Not a lot more work. I'm still adjusting that bridge. I tend to sculpt a lot on those bridges. But we have a cute little nose. So, we can move on to hair. But let me show you one final thing that might make these funny faces even funnier. Again, it involves the straw. You're gonna make like the ear, like the lip, but we're gonna make a wrinkle or two. I think wrinkles across the forehead are just the cutest thing. We don't need as much wool as we needed for the ears. Wrinkles don't have a lot of substance. So same color as your flesh, whatever color you chose. I've got my pink wool here. And so I'm just rolling it around the stick once again. Making sure it's tight. Spinning it around to get that felting process started. Okay, I'm going to pull it off that stick. Pull this out. It's pretty long. It's okay, these wrinkles can really wind around. So I love to make wrinkled foreheads, so I just lay it across, starting in the middle. Just going to tack it down along one edge. I don't like to keep them real symmetrical. To give them some curve. It's going to look kind of funny at first, like he's got a big line on his forehead, but so then I'm going to tack it down on the other side. Doesn't take much poking to get that wrinkle tacked in. Okay, I think I want another one. I think I want a little smaller than this will be the main wrinkle, and we'll have a little auxiliary wrinkle. I have a thinner popsicle stick that I use, and I might grab it for this for wrinkles, but their funny faces can take some thick wrinkles. So this one's a little thinner. I can already feel there's less wool in there. Okay, just pull that off the stick, stretch it out good. Well, there's a little bunchy looking bunch of wool there. So I think it's great to follow that line now. Kind of taper it out. I just think wrinkles are funny. I'm going to try to sink it in a little more. And it looks a little abrupt. So to fix that, all you have to do is put a small, not small, but thin, very thin sheet across. I'm going to draft this apart. I want to be able to see through it. So you can see that's the degree you want to be able to see through it, if not even a little more. So all we want to do to reduce the abruptness of this, see where I'm getting at? Just lay it over, just start. Again, I'm going to use the palms of my hands because I like how that smooths it out. So I'm just tacking it in there. It's going to naturally go in those deep impressions between the wrinkles. And even if there's loose fibers, you can get them down underneath the eyelids. I'm just sculpting them in. And covering any of those abrupt edges with this sheet of wool here. Just want to vanish here. My red needle. Do a little more surface work right there. Okay, now you have a funny wrinkled forehead. Wrinkles are not perfect. So, okay, really the last part of this lesson then is you can add wrinkles here too before I jump on. You can add them down here, making more jowls. You can add them out from here to make smile lines. You can go nuts with wrinkles, so feel free to play around with that. I just wanted to make sure to show you so you're aware that how easy it is to add that kind of effect. Okay, so hair. Let me see. Let me clean up my felting pad. Messy felter. Clean all that up. I have a lot of extra. This head is weighing in much less than an ounce. I probably have enough to do another smaller head out of my ounce of wool. So for hair options, I generally use one of three things. It will either be wool, and well, I always try to use wool. It's just prepared different. I like to purchase dyed sheep's locks. These are Cotswold locks. Cotswold tends to felt into the head easy, has a nice sheen to it, and I enjoy working with Cotswold locks a lot. You can another favorite is kid mohair. Mohair's got a really great sheen to it, but this is readily available. It's just Cotswold sheep, and it has a great kink, and it dyes nicely. I don't dye it myself. You can be even dyed with Kool-Aid. That's a whole different thing. So I use curly locks a lot. I'll show you how to attach those. I also use merino roving a great deal. It makes nice long hair. It makes nice short hair, fine hair, thick hair. I love it for hair. And there's lots of ways you can use it and attach it. And I'll show you some of those. And another of my favorite is yarn. I love to buy art yarn, hand spun, wool, silk, all kinds of fun things in it. Art yarn, I think it makes a great effect for hair. It's very easy to felt into the wool, and it just adds such a uniqueness to it. So at this point we can decide, we got a male or female. I'm thinking this thing looks male. It could easily change with some hair, but I think it looks male. It's got a really wide chin, the deep grooves in the forehead. It just looks male. So again, it doesn't really matter. This is a funny fantasy face. I just want to show you some techniques. So let's start with the curly locks. I think for a male figure, it's really fun to do just a balding head and work around the hairline like this. So look for a nice neat curl end. Hold on to everything, pull that off. So all you're going to want to do is generally hair comes a little bit in front of the ear. So the yellow needle usually works good. Sometimes the fibers are really coarse and hard to grab. So tack them in and then find a couple spots to sink it in and give it a few twists. Sink it in, give it a few twists. That really tangles them in there. You could twist, and pretty soon you can't twist anymore, and it's hard to get your needle out. But go ahead and twist up until you meet resistance. So that's in there. So you work your way around the head. I always start along the hairline. So I need to pull out, let's see, that little curl was short. This one looks good. So I'm just going to work my way around. You can kind of build up a little bit on the scalp, but work my way behind the ear and find some of those points to twist. Poke it in deep and twist. That's just going to make sure that a little kid's not going to be able to pull these hair out really easy. So let's see, I have to switch to orange. I ran out of my yellow example. So I think you get the picture, and if you want the head bald, fine, but if you want it to be covered, you need a lot more wool, and you just work your way up in layers. And it just really gives a cute effect. So that's one way. So let's move on to the merino. Do I want long hair? Do I want short hair? You can even give it a haircut after you're done. So I'm just going to pull off some random lengths. A random length. With merino, you got to get your hands far enough apart, longer than the length of the staple of the fibers there. I have some that kind of came off shorter than the others. I'm going to give it another pull. Merino is really fun. It really is a fun way to put on hair. I love this green color on the pink. So I want a middle part. I want to make a part in the middle on this guy. He's going to look crazy. So just lay the wool out flat, and then about where you think a natural hairline would start in the middle, just needle in a nice straight line. Okay, and then look how fun this is. Flip it over, you've got a nice part. So you need a part going the other way. You need the hair going down the other way. So I'm gonna kind of spread this out so it's about as wide as that. So lay it on this way. You can see where you have the other part. So lay it on. Needle right down along the edge of the first section of merino you put on. You can tack those down the head, and voila! Beautiful part. And then let's see if we wanted to do the back of the head. I'm going to take these curls off because they're just in my way. As you would have kept, see how easy those came off? As you would have kept attaching the layers, each layer tangles into the next, and it would have been harder to pull off. So I'm going to pull some more wool off of the robing. And I need to make the back of the hair. So I'm going to lay this across. I'm going to meet up right where I stopped the part and lay that down. And this is really fun. And so I think I would go ahead and lay some more layers in there, just to fill that in a little bit more, because we don't want it to look too bald or too thin and wispy. Up around the hairline, remember I said how it kind of comes down around the ear? So let's tack it down around the ear, around the back of the ear, and up. And this one's going to be not such a part because it's going to be covered by this one. Oh, merino just makes the best hair. So I'm going to go back to this side. We're going to add one more tuft of merino, and I'll show you how to lay that all down. And then I'll give you a quick lesson on using yarn. Yarn is very much the same as using curly locks. A little different, teeny bit different. You kind of have to add each strand individually. So let me come up here. Get some of this over in front of the ear. Around the ear, around the back of the head. So fold it all down, get it where you want it. You'll maybe be able to see some of the scalp under there. That's okay, we're not done yet. So now we just want to tack this down. We want to follow some of the natural lines in the merinos to give it a nice hairline, to give it nice flow of hair. You don't want to keep it flowy, it'll just get tangled, and so you kind of want to tack it, but you want to make it look like it's flowing. So I'm just kind of working my way down along some of those lines. I could felt it all the way to make it like a helmet and make it solid, but I don't want to do that. It suddenly looks female. And so for the back of the hairline, I want to pick it up and give it a good felting right along the bottom of the hairline. So you could give it a haircut. You could even put it in a ponytail. So that's another way. You could have given bangs too. You would have just had to have some shorter fibers, attach them this way, and flop them back over for bangs. But you need shorter fibers. You need to pull them off shorter. So we have green hair. Maybe we want green eyebrows. Eyebrows are fun. So we don't need a lot of fiber for eyebrows. That's probably enough for both. Break those in half one more time. It just adds such funny character. You really just have to play with the line of eyebrows too. You can make it really bushy, really fine. It's a little thicker than the other. You can put facial hair on too. Merino works really good for all of that. So I just want to tack it in a little. You don't really want it to look like caterpillars, but so I just want to tack it in a little. The thing is looking garish, but it's a funny face. It's making me laugh. So the last thing would be to show you how to attach. See how easy that's pulling off? It shouldn't pull off that easy. I would take more time to attach it in those grooves and even give it those spins. That really helps. So anyway, so I need to show you how to attach the yarn, and that will conclude the lesson. So I purposely didn't attach this as hard as I would have if I was not demonstrating. So it sort of roughed up the head. I want to fluff that back down. Left some green fibers all over. So for yarn, it's the same principle as the curly locks. I've cut some of this art yarn off of the skein. So I'm going to start right along the ear. You might have to do a little more diligence in felting. You can feel it pulling in. Again, use that twist. It's in there then. See? I'm pulling. So all you do is you work your way around the whole hairline underneath. Get them laid out. It's going to take a bit of yarn if you want a full head of hair. So lay them out down along the hairline. Get them each individual end needled in. You take more time than what I'm showing you. I'm just demonstrating so you can see the possibilities. So, and then you just keep working up in layers all the way around. And you use those same techniques if you want parts, laying it one way and then folding it over the line. So this would take a long time. I would say it would take probably a good half hour, 45 minutes to cover the whole head with art yarn. Merino's much faster. So you just work your way around. I would want to cut some of these. It kind of gives a dreadlocky look. So have fun with your funny face. Come up with creative ideas for displaying them. I think they're fun. You can just sew a string, like a fishing line right through them and hang them. That's a fun way. They're funny sitting on shelves. They're funny sitting in plants. I love to put mine in plants peeking out. So you don't really need a body. You've just made a lifelike face, but you can play around, or feel free to sign up for my Felt Alive class where I teach how to felt a whole doll, including clothing, hair, all the facial features, very much more advanced than this. This is just it's a great introduction to felting soft, the soft style of felting that keeps these figures somewhat lively and animated. Thanks for joining me. I hope you had fun, and I hope you and your friends and family all enjoy your new little funny face.